Dear students, this is your Chitrali ma'am and I welcome all of you to my biology class. The chapter we are starting today is Cell, Fundamental Unit of Life. You got a preliminary concept of cell in your previous standard, right? But in this standard, you have to learn the chapter or the cell in details. So let's begin the chapter. In 1665, Robert Hooke examined the thin slice of cork through a self-designed microscope. Now the question is, what is microscope? An instrument which is used to see or to study the things which are very small in size, which we cannot see with our naked eyes. So microscope are such kind of instrument which is used to see those microscopic things. Robert Hooke examined the cell or the slice of cork through his first self-designed microscope, and on that note we got the concept of cell and we got the concept of microscope for the very first time. He observed a honeycomb-like structure. You can see over here honeycomb-like structure of the cork. Just for an example, if you take an onion peel or any kind of plant peel under the microscope, you can find this kind of structure that you can see over here, some compartment like structure or some chamber like structure. So cell is basically a small chamber which is modified to do some activities. In case of living things, cells are obviously modified to do some physiological activities to maintain the life processes. In the left side, you can see a rectangle that indicates a thing which is very important to see or to study something under microscope, and this thing is called slide and it is made up of glass, a very thin slice of glass known as slide. And your specimen, you have to keep the specimen onto the slide in the middle portion, and then the slide along with the specimen is placed under the microscope, and now you can see the structure what you want to study. So if you take an onion peel or any kind of plant peel under the microscope, you can find this kind of compartmental structure under the microscope. And you can see very clearly a dot like dark colored round shaped thing inside every chamber, and that is the main important thing known as nucleus of a cell. And the rest part of the cell generally termed as cytoplasm. Cyto indicates cellular body and plasm indicates plasma state, that is a semi-solid in nature. So a cell contains generally a cytoplasm that actually holds the other organelles inside the cell, and the most important and main organelle of the cell is nucleus. Nucleus is important for cell division, and cytoplasm actually holds all the cellular organelles. You already got the names of different kinds of cellular organelles in your previous standard, like mitochondria, ribosome, centrosome, endoplasmic reticulum, etc. So now there are various cells with various shapes in case of human body. You can find the very first example here, that is the blood cells. You already know that there are three types of main blood cells like RBC, WBC and platelets. Blood cells are generally round or oval in shape. Now the next is the bone cell, also termed as osteocytes. This is a very unique shape, a diamond-like structure. And then is the muscle cell, a typical reddish colored, thick, fleshy type of cell. Then you can find the ovum, that is the female reproductive cell, completely round or oval in shape. Then you can find fat cells. Fat cells are present under your epidermis or your skin and in your internal organs. Fat cells are irregular in shape. And now you can find the typical structure of the sperm, that is the male reproductive cell. And the last one is the neuron cell. Neuron comes from the nervous system, follows by the nerve impulse propagation. So this neuron cell also have a very special type of structure. Now, according to the number of cells present in the body, every organism in the environment are classified into two main types. One is unicellular organisms and the second one is multicellular organisms. Uni means one and multi means more than one. Unicellular means the organism having only one cell in the body. That means that one cell is capable of doing all the physiological activities. You can take the very most common example, I must say, that is the amoeba, bacteria. These are the simple unicellular organisms and present all over the world. One cell is exactly capable of doing all the physiological activities like food digestion, excretion, transportation, reproduction, locomotion, defense, etc. So, amoeba, bacteria, paramecium, euglena, volvox, these are the examples of unicellular organisms. And their lifespan is short. Hence, we can call they are very primitive organisms. Of course, amoeba, bacteria, these are very primitive and not so modified. Now, coming to the next one, that is the multicellular organisms. Obviously, it is the opposite. That means the organisms having more than one cell inside the body, and more than one cell means they have some modifications, they have some complicated physiological systems inside the body. So, apart from the unicellular, all living organisms including the animals, plants, fungi, this all belong to the group of multicellular organisms. And of course, having a complicated physiological system, their lifespan is comparatively long. So, according to the number of cells present inside the body, the all living organisms are classified into two distinct types, unicellular and multicellular organisms. You also know that unicellular organisms like amoeba, bacteria having the cell called prokaryotic cell. Pro comes from primitive, having a very primitive type of cells, but multicellular organisms having a modified type of cell that is known as eukaryotic cells. Now, every single cell performs some basic functions like gaseous exchange, digestion, absorption, etc. You already know that gaseous exchange takes place through diffusion and osmosis. Okay, and digestion, absorption, these concepts are already clear, I hope. Three main component of cell you have to learn, that is, the first one is obviously membrane. Every organ is covered by something very rigid, something very prominent, and something very flexible, and that is the cell membrane or plasma membrane. The membrane which covers a cell called cell membrane. And why it is known as plasma? Because the membrane is in plasma or fluidic state. So the membrane of the cell is also termed as plasma membrane. So a membrane can protect the organelle or any kind of organs. A membrane can provide the mechanical support. A membrane can provide the exact shape. It prevents the cell or protects the cell from external mechanical injuries, and of course it allows the osmosis and diffusion process to allow the necessary things to enter inside the cell. So membrane is very important. The next thing is nucleus. We already told you that nucleus is the most important organelle because it is responsible for cell division and cell growth. And cytoplasm is the fluidic or plasma state present inside the cell that actually holds all the cellular organelles. So that's all for today.